The Warriors come out to play as a cooperative fighting / matching / survival game where the goal is for your gang, the Warriors, to make it from one end of the city to the other while constantly running into fights and trying to have the highest reputation of all the gangs. The city is a mostly linear string of location spots that have varying effects, such as battle areas, rest stops, and more. Depending on where you land, and depending on the number of threat cards you draw from the bopper deck each turn, you may start a street fight. When this happens, your goal will be to either roll dice of certain numbers, or to sacrifice cards from your hand in order to cross off various tokens on the opposing gang's card, or on the location card for the neighborhood you are fighting in, such as a spot asking for brass knuckles, or a spot asking for a dice roll 4 or higher. If you can't cover a spot on your turn, your character is knocked out. If all the characters are knocked out, you lose the fight, as well as reputation. If you win the fight, you gain reputation and move on. Each win or loss will cause the Warriors to either rise or fall respectively in the reputation tracker, which determines how hard your fights will be against other gangs on the reputation tracker, depending on which gang has the highest reputation at the time of the fight. The game ends either when your whole team is defeated in battle after having fallen to the bottom of the reputation tracker, or when you win by surviving the journey and reaching the Coney Island location at the far end of the board and beating the final battle.
Hello, this is Rich Reynolds for a board game review of the Warriors board game. What I could say about the game, so not a lot of good positive things to say other than it just feels like you're a team, you are a gang working together to get from one end of the city to the other while these other gangs are attacking you, and the overall vibe and feel of the movie I suppose is in the game, but just in a very generic sense. So the rest it's bad. So the fighting mechanic in the game is you flip a certain number of cards, and you get to the third card, you start a fight. Or if you get to a certain spot on the board, you fight. There's just like no break at all, no time to recoup in the game or to recover. So when you actually fight the game, it's like a card, and you got to fill a certain number of circles on the card with like tokens, with weapons, and it just does not feel like you're fighting anybody. Like for instance, in the Resident Evil board game, there's like monsters, there's like zombie figurines, there's boss figurines that take up space on the board. You like run around them, or try to dodge their attacks or whatever. It actually feels like you're fighting something right there. Whereas this card is supposed to represent an entire game that you're fighting. And it's all connected to this other part of the game called the reputation track. And it sucks. 3 out of 10. There you go.
Is that time?
So the Warriors game is one that feels like somebody saw the movie one time and then they decided to make a game out of it. They created a good base level idea, a good concept, and then they said, all right, now let's get in the people in here who love it, and then we can really make the artwork, ship it. It is kind of mediocre. I think in general, if I was to say anything overall about the game, it is that it lacks uniqueness in every aspect. I think, first of all, they could have made it more like a game like Betrayal, where, there's multiple separate characters and they're going their own ways, but maybe, they could have one turn on a fight be a turn in the real world with everyone else, so they could say, oh, they're getting their ass kicked, I need to get over there. And there could be this concentration on cooperation. It could be kind of like an RPG. There could be sneaking, where there's a gang over there, we need to maybe pass by them. The characters, they need to feel more unique. You need to say, oh, plus Ajax need to be in this game, go to hell. Like if Ajax is in the game, oh, he's got really good fighting, but he can't sneak and he's dumb. Like the stats, you could have stats. They could come with their own unique items. The items need to be more unique, not just like, oh, we got a +1 in fighting or whatever. We have a chain, we can beat that other guy. That's lame as shit. It needs to be more like you're exploring the map. It needs to be more unique. Like, oh, there's whatever. There's this subway. The cops. They could be more of like a surprise. Oh, cops are here. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna try to run? Do we need to sneak? What are we trying to do? You know, I like the reputation. It's okay, but it needs to be combined with things in conjunction to make it a little more unique between characters, the actions you can take, the map. It all just feels kind of generic, and I think that's the main problem with it. You could do a lot more. Seems like if somebody really loved the movie, they could make it into a more unique situation between the characters themselves could all have unique talents. The enemies could have more unique things that you need to do.
Okay, so what they've already said is that there's basically two different game mechanics going on here. It's moving through the town, which is pretty generic, and it's just like linear. It's not very interesting. It doesn't feel like the movie, even though the movie is fast and frenetic and there's moving from place to place. It's not interesting. It doesn't give you choice of movement. Like we've mentioned Resident Evil. It needs a game where it's like, oh, if you go down this direction, this street, it uncovers a part of the map and you find out what's down there. Might be a gang, might not be, there might be weapons, whatever. It should have been more of an exploratory experience. Secondly, the other half of the game is the fighting mechanic, and as the others have already addressed, it's poor. It feels like some other game mechanic that they came up with. They needed some reason to sell it, so they slapped the Warriors paint job, put it on there, and it's like this weird covering components of a card up instead of rolling. It should have just been rolling dice, seeing who had a higher number, and then that's how you fight the gangs. Add weapons for bonuses, etc. The rule book is terrible. We found ourselves confused quite often, and so it could have been better written. And in addition to that, what else? There's a lot of elements from the movie that don't feel like they were really properly incorporated. The gangs don't feel that different from each other. They're just a different paint skin with like a small little bonus to what that gang does. Your characters don't feel that different from each other. They get a whole deck, but there's only one real card that's different, that's unique to that character. And so there's a lot of like interchangeability. It just feels like a machine without character and personality. And the movie is all about personality. It's all about music and soundtrack. The orphans aren't in the movie, or the orphans aren't in the game. The cops aren't in the game. They could have added probably a big element to like avoid these areas. Ajax isn't in the game. I don't know, some reasons. Yeah, so the game just doesn't really feel like the Warriors. That's the problem that I think we all uniformly experienced with it. Am I out of time?
Instead of like we're going down this line,
If I had more time, I probably
they get in their own fights. And
Definitely don't. I've not really thought about what I'm going to say yet.
Yeah.
So,
I thought a little
like there should have been, instead of a card, they should have been.
nice. All right, we have just beaten we got a 3 and a 4, and that's what we needed.
I was Ajax
So we have
and I picked
beaten
him up over my head and went, Rah!
Move those chumps down to the bottom.
Ricky had a baseball bat, and I still had to take him out of the room.
Well, that whole gang had baseball bats. Didn't help them any, did it? Yeah, we're threat 1, and now Cody gets, what is it? What did he want? The throw hands. Okay. There you go. And it got replaced by another throw hands. I think maybe they could have put a bit fewer of those in the deck.
In the buffer deck that.
You know what? Send me to the fight. Are
You
you here to
protect
back
your
me
town?
up, dude?
Yeah, I better be, because Fox never fought anyone.
You know what, Cody?
Besides the train,
I'm
he
reimagining Fox's
He
role.
lost
I
handily.
know. This is different universe, Cody.
He lost handily
No,
to
he
that
didn't,
train.
because this is different. And for this one,
There's like no good
you don't
decision here.
have to. I mean, like, so
If I rest, the threat goes up, so I have to fight. There's like no way to avoid this. Why does resting draw a threat? Like sitting still?
I've got the lucky hand. I'm gonna get the good one.
Left, right, or middle? Way to the left. Here. You got it. Further, much further left. Left. Excellent choice. It's a throw hands.
It doesn't even matter because the fights are so unfun. Is like the biggest problem. Like it doesn't feel like you're fighting things.
It's that maple syrup thing I opened like an hour and a half ago. I hope that's okay. It's also only 12 ounces, and I'm not even half done with it yet.
Penis. There it is.
Okay, so
Honk! Honk! Speeding cricket.
Oh, what's happening?
What are we gonna get out of here? Hey man, listen up. Loosen up.
no,
Some fun.
you get back here.
She's being dragged back by her ankles.